Hi, this is Annie Grace, author of This Naked Mind, Alcohol Exposed. And today we're going to talk a little bit about why addiction is so incredibly painful. Now, if you know someone who's addicted, you know it's painful for you. It's painful to see a loved one who's addicted. It's painful to be around someone who's addicted. What you might not know is that, from the outside, it can look like this person is doing these things because they want to, drinking too much because they want to. Maybe even it looks like they're getting enjoyment out of it. And when you're really heavily addicted, that just isn't any longer true. And I'll definitely do a video on some of the things that happen when you become heavily addicted, and the fact that being heavily addicted to something actually neurologically means that you're no longer receiving pleasure or enjoyment, but you have a compulsion, a craving that is much stronger than your logical ability to sort of put the substance down, whatever that substance is. But inside addiction, it's incredibly painful. It's painful because you are doing something that you no longer want to be doing. And so if you look at my drinking, for example, when I started drinking, I went in, head first. I didn't see a reason not to drink. I wasn't really educated in the health reasons not to drink. I think most of our society isn't. People don't really know that alcohol, is a really big risk factor in cancer, for example. And I just went head first, and I just was a drinker, and I was proud of it, and I tried hard to achieve a tolerance. I tried to keep up with colleagues. And so that was great. I had no internal struggle. I had no internal disagreement about it. I just drank what I wanted when I wanted. And then there came a point in my drinking career, if you will, where I wasn't liking how much I was drinking anymore. I wasn't liking nights being fuzzy. I wasn't liking having to piece together conversations. I did not like hangovers. I wasn't even really enjoying drinking because I had such a high tolerance. I was drinking 2 bottles of wine and not really even feeling it. And so I decided consciously that I wanted to drink less. And I thought that would be easy. I said, okay, well, no problem, right? I'm drinking as much as I want because I want to be drinking. So drinking less should theoretically be easy. Not easy. Not easy at all. And I want to explain to you why and what the pain is. And in order to do that, we're going to have to explore a term called cognitive dissonance. So cognitive means how you think, and it's your brain function. And dissonance is disagreement. So I'm going to read the exact definition just to make sure I get it right, but it means it's the mental stress or discomfort which is experienced by an individual who holds 2 contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time. And so with drinking, for me, it looked like this. There was this part of my brain which was really wholly unconscious. I didn't think about this. I wasn't consciously aware of it, but there was a big part of my brain based on years of conditioning that believed that alcohol was key to my life, key to my career, key in the bedroom, key to social situations, key to relaxation, key to unwinding after a hard day at work. It just was really key. And this big, huge part of my brain believes that alcohol is important and key, and that it's going to be hard to give it up, and that I'm going to have to feel like I'm missing out on life. And then that's all fine until this other part of my brain enters the picture saying, whoa, 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 this isn't great anymore. You're feeling hungover. You probably want to drink less. Let's try and tone this down. And so all of a sudden, here I am with 2 conflicting points of view inside my own mind. And that is cognitive dissonance. And if you think about it in the sense of disagreement in general, it's painful. I mean, fighting with your husband or your wife, it's painful. Getting in an argument with a stranger is painful. Even witnessing an argument is painful because we as humans were programmed to avoid conflict. And so one of the things that really happens with cognitive dissonance is that this conflict, it's not easily solvable. You can't easily come to an agreement with yourself because this unconscious desire, it's not easily changed. Your unconscious mind isn't easily changed, yet unconscious things that you don't think about, let's use that word, things that you aren't consciously aware of, that's what drives your emotions. That's what drives your desire. You don't consciously fall in love with somebody. You don't consciously wake up in a bad mood. These things happen as a result of lifelong programming. And you can't just consciously change who you're in love with. You can't just consciously change your mood, although you can try, but hasn't usually worked for me. I hate it when someone comes up and says, oh, you look grumpy, just smile. I'm like, anyway. But the point is that you've created this internal struggle. And let's look at it like candy, right? You're on a diet and there's candy. And you don't want to be eating this candy because you're on a diet, but there it is tempting you, right? And it's all fine as long as you just walk by, you forget about it, you don't eat the candy. No problem, no dissonance. One day, you walk in, the candy's there, you eat it. Ah, dissonance. Two things are happening. One thing is your brain does not want to be eating the candy because you're on a diet. The other thing is you've done it, you've eaten the candy, you have an internal conflict. And so you try to overcome this division and restore harmony, and you do this in a few ways. First, you can change your behavior. You can just make a vow to yourself that you're not going to eat any more candy. Second, you can justify your behavior, and you do that by changing the conflicting idea or information. So you say something like, oh, it's okay to cheat on my diet every once in a while, I deserve it, no big deal. And so that's the second way you could try to overcome this. And then third, you justify your behavior by adding new behaviors. So you say, oh, well, I ate that candy, but that's okay. I'm going to go to the gym later and I'll make up for it. So then again, you've reduced your internal conflict. Or fourth, and this is what we do as people who are addicted, is we can delude ourselves by ignoring or denying the conflicting information. So we can say, oh, well, candy's not that bad for my diet, and, everybody needs a little sugar once in a while. And we do that with alcohol. We ignore when it's not doing us any favors anymore. And we do that as a defense mechanism because we're trying to reduce this internal conflict inside our brains and inside ourselves, because this conflict, it is painful. You not being whole, you not being on the same page, you doing two things, both not drinking enough for your unconscious desire, feeling deprived, yet drinking too much because you are going over your limits, you're maybe drinking when you don't want to be drinking. That internal division is incredibly painful. And what do we as drinkers do to alleviate pain? We drink more, and then we create more dissonance. And we don't realize this is happening, and this cycle of addiction, it spirals and it goes and it goes, and it becomes all-consuming. And you, at least for me, when I was in the depths of it, I would try so hard to overcome these cravings, try so hard to overcome this unconscious desire, which I didn't even realize was unconscious at the time. And then I'd give in, whatever, my willpower would run out. As it does. Willpower is exhaustible resource. Thank you to author of The Power of Habit that we know that now, but give in and then you've done it. So now you've drank when you didn't want to drink, and you start to hate yourself, and you start to have this internal conflict. And when that would happen to me, I would make it a point to get shit-faced. Because guess what? Being unconscious, being so drunk, I didn't have to think about the fact that I'd broken another commitment to myself. It erased the conflict, and it was a way to deal with it. And I didn't do that consciously. I didn't say, oh, I've had a drink, now I'm going to just down the rest of the bottle. No, that was just my defense mechanism, and it was just something that happened. And then the next morning I'd wake up and I'd be like, what the hell is your problem, Annie Grace? Why can't you get it together? You must be the weakest person on the planet. But what I didn't know is there was something much bigger at work. How do you change your unconscious mind that wants something when you don't even realize it? Because the definition of unconscious is you don't realize it. You're not consciously aware that it's happening. How do you do that? Well, the good news is that I think I've figured it out, and I did it for myself, and really it's relatively simple. You use something called a process of really deconstructing your beliefs, of looking at each thing that you believe, shining the light of consciousness down into your belief system, saying, why do I believe this? Is it true? Does it sync with reality? And by doing that, you can change your unconscious mind. And I've actually, in my book, I use something called liminal thinking, which is a really cool concept that's come out by Dave Gray. And liminal thinking is just that. It's saying that everything we believe on this pyramid of beliefs. We don't believe things directly on reality. If you think about it, okay, so you think about me in America, right? I've had this set of experiences, and of those experiences, I've taken what's relevant to my life. And then through those relevant experiences, I've made assumptions, I've developed conclusions, and out of those conclusions come my beliefs. But that's a pyramid sitting on reality. Think of somebody in, Africa or, you know, Dubai. You know, they have a completely different set of experiences. And so we're both here believing something that we know to be true, but they don't sync with each other. And I think that happens all the time, but it also happens with alcohol, is that two things are happening. You know, you have all of your conditioned belief that alcohol is doing you favors, and then you have your experiences when you start to drink too much and you start to realize it's controlling you, you're not controlling it. These things come into your life, and all of a sudden, these things aren't syncing up anymore. There's this disagreement. How do you eliminate this disagreement? You go back down through consciousness to reality. You figure out what is real, what is alcohol really doing for me? Why do I think what I think? Why do I believe it relieves stress when actually laboratory tests prove definitively that alcohol does not relieve stress? It makes you less capable of dealing with stress. You know, why do I believe that it's key to social situations when the only reason we think that is just because it's at every damn social situation, you know, and you deconstruct these beliefs, and then you can find peace because you can put both sides of your brain together again, and you can do one of the things that you need to do to overcome this cognitive dissonance, which is just kind of making a decision about where alcohol will be in your life. And it doesn't have to be a decision that it's going to be eliminated. It just has to be a decision that you're at peace about. Because if you're drinking, you know, a 6-pack a day, but you want to be drinking 2 beers, there's dissonance. Equally, you know, if you're drinking a bottle a day, but you want to be drinking nothing, there's dissonance. But if you're drinking 2 beers a day and you want to be drinking 2 beers a day, there's no dissonance. So there you go. And you know, moderation's a whole different can of worms. But again, I think the purpose of this Naked Mind Alcohol Exposed is to allow you to go into these beliefs and uncover what's really true for you. And it's not about rules. It's not about you can't do this, you can do this. It's really about you discovering what's true for you and you being able to become whole again by overcoming that cognitive dissonance. So till next time, thanks for listening.